Short course on transaction screening obligations for payments aggregator. Introduction. 4 payment aggregators processing transactions for money service businesses, MSBs. Transaction screening obligations on the names of the sender and beneficiary arise from regulatory requirements related to anti-money laundering, AML, and counter-terrorism financing, CTF. While the aggregator might not have direct access to the KYC details of the remitters, senders, or beneficiaries, they are still responsible for ensuring compliance with sanctions, watchlist screening, and other regulatory obligations. Here's an overview of the transaction screening obligations. Number 1. Sanctions screening of senders and beneficiaries. Aggregators are required to screen the names of both the sender and beneficiary against sanctions lists, such as OFAC, UN sanctions, EU, and local country-specific watchlists. The responsibility to screen sender and beneficiary names applies even if the aggregator is processing transactions through MSBs. The aggregator should ensure that these names are checked in real time against updated sanctions lists to identify any high-risk individuals or entities. Number 2. Politically exposed persons screening. Although the sender and beneficiary may not be direct customers of the aggregator, there is an obligation to check if either party is a PEP or related to a PEP. This is because PEPs present a higher risk of involvement in corruption or money laundering. Screening for PEPs ensures that transactions are not indirectly facilitating illicit financial activities involving public figures or their associates. Number 3. Terrorism financing screening. Names of senders and beneficiaries should be screened for connections to any known or suspected terrorists, including those on terrorist watch lists issued by domestic or international agencies. This screening helps identify transactions that may involve the financing of terrorism, a critical concern for AML/CTF compliance. Number 4. Beneficiary screening across jurisdictions. If the aggregator operates across multiple jurisdictions, they must ensure compliance with the sanctions laws and AML/CTF regulations of all relevant jurisdictions. Some jurisdictions may impose additional screening requirements on beneficiaries, even if the transaction is processed via an MSB. Number 5. Reliance on MSB data. In cases where the aggregator does not have direct access to the names of the sender and beneficiary, they must rely on the MSB's compliance with KYC and screening obligations. However, it's crucial that the aggregator ensures MSBs are adhering to these requirements through regular audits or KYC/AML certifications from the MSB. Contractual obligations requiring MSBs to provide information on their KYC practices and assurances that they are conducting screening. Transaction-level screening of the aggregated data available, e.g., the MSB's customer IDs or pseudonyms used in the transaction, to identify patterns that may suggest sanctions or terrorism financing risks. Number 6. Real-time and batch screening. Real-time screening is essential for payments aggregators, especially for high-velocity, cross-border payments. This involves continuously screening transactions as they happen to ensure compliance. Batch screening of existing customer data can also be done periodically for transactions processed by MSBs to identify any past breaches or missed hits on sanction lists. Number 7. Monitoring red flags and suspicious transactions. Aggregators must monitor for red flags that could indicate sanctions or terrorism risks, such as transactions with countries under sanctions or embargoes, repeated transactions between the same sender and beneficiary across multiple MSBs or with different intermediaries, transaction patterns that deviate from typical remittance behavior, especially for high-risk jurisdictions. Number 8. Enhanced due diligence for high-risk transactions. If a transaction involves a high-risk jurisdiction, PEP, or flagged individual, the aggregator must apply enhanced due diligence, EDD. This may require obtaining more information from the MSB or halting the transaction if further screening or clarification is needed. Number 9. Reporting suspicious transactions, STR/AR. If a potential match is identified in the screening process, aggregators are obliged to report the transaction as a suspicious transaction report, STR, or suspicious activity report, SAR, to the relevant authorities. This includes transactions where either the sender or beneficiary may be linked to sanctioned entities, PEPs, or terrorist financing. Number 10. MSB partnerships and responsibilities. The payment aggregator must ensure that all MSB partners have strong AML programs, including screening obligations. Contracts between the aggregator and MSBs should clearly define responsibilities for screening and reporting. Aggregators must have processes in place to monitor MSBs' compliance with these obligations. Conclusion. In summary, payment aggregators have an obligation to screen the names of senders and beneficiaries processed by MSBs for sanctions, PEP, and terrorism-related risks. Although aggregators may not have direct access to full KYC data, they must ensure MSBs are compliant with these requirements and establish robust monitoring and screening mechanisms to address AML/CTF risks effectively. Regular audits, real-time screening, and contractual agreements with MSBs play a crucial role in fulfilling these obligations. Keep learning at Learning tabs.